In Chapter 1, Vault, Isla Crown unlocks a hidden vault in the Place of Mirrors with her crown as the key. Inside, she feels a powerful force calling to her, but before she can fully explore, a force blasts her across the room, slamming the door shut. As she lies on the floor, she experiences a haunting vision of death and destruction, bodies consumed by darkness that turns its attention to her, forcing her to drink in the shadows. Just before everything goes black, she hears Grimm's voice calling her back. She regains consciousness to find Oro by her side, horrified. Blood pours from her eyes, nose, and ears, and Isla realizes that something powerful and malevolent resides behind the vault's door. It doesn't want her to find it, and now she's more determined than ever to uncover what lies inside. In Chapter 2, Truths and Lies, Isla faces the reality that she isn't ready to unlock the vault. Oro suggests she hasn't mastered her powers yet, especially the Wildling abilities. She struggles with the realization that her powers, including those stolen from the Starling realm, might overwhelm her. Oro offers to help her train, but Isla resists, wanting time to recover from the recent events and betrayal. She opens up about a vision she had in the Place of Mirrors, seeing darkness, death, and destruction, possibly tied to Grimm's obsession with her. Oro insists she must train to control her powers, for the sake of the realms. Despite Isla's resistance, Oro persuades her to agree to training. Their connection deepens, and the tension between them becomes palpable as Isla questions the nature of love and trust. The chapter ends with Oro offering her rest before their training begins. In Chapter 3, Floating Feast, Isla attends a dinner with rulers and nobles from various realms. She wears a dress that blends Wildling and Starling styles, symbolizing her complex identity. The meal begins with a strange atmosphere as the rulers, including Oro and Azul, observe her closely. Isla feels the weight of their judgment, particularly from Soren, a Moonling representative who questions her ability to rule. Throughout the feast, tensions rise as discussions about the future of Lightlark unfold. Soren challenges Isla's authority, but Oro defends her fiercely, highlighting her role in breaking the curses. Marin, a Starling representative, pleads for Isla's help, stating that her realm is in desperate need of leadership. After heated exchanges, Isla agrees to become the official ruler of Starling, despite her doubts about her capability. She accepts the responsibility to heal the realms and restore balance after centuries of suffering. In Chapter 4, Choices, Isla confides in Azul about her uncertainty regarding ruling, admitting her lack of readiness. Azul challenges her, stating that she always has a choice, but emphasizes the responsibility she has now as a ruler. He encourages her to embrace her role, explaining that ruling requires putting others' needs above her own. Isla reveals her struggles with her Wildling people, whom she feels disconnected from. Azul reassures her, noting that leadership isn't about perfection, but about commitment to the people. As they fly to Sky Isle, Azul shares his experiences, highlighting the difficulty of leadership and the pressure to have an heir. He suggests that rulers can transfer power through love bonds or relics, though it comes with high costs. Azul advises Isla to face her people and be honest with them, as she is their ruler, whether or not she feels ready. Isla's fear of her new responsibilities grows. In Chapter 5, Coronation, Isla confronts the reality of her people's dire condition. The Wildlings are weakened, and she feels disconnected from them. Despite this, they bow to her, acknowledging her role in breaking the curses. She tries to gain their trust by being honest about her lack of ruling experience and asks for their needs. However, her conversation is interrupted by a vision of Grimm, causing her to panic. She addresses the uncertainty on Lightlark and the potential threat of a Nightshade attack. Isla then speaks with Ren, a leader of a larger village, who expresses the need to help the Starlings. Isla promises to return with help after her coronation. At the coronation, Isla feels unworthy, but Oro crowns her as the ruler of Starling. Just as the ceremony ends, monstrous winged creatures emerge from a rift, attacking the crowd. Despite her efforts, Isla struggles to use her powers, and the creatures flee toward Nightshade. The scene ends with Isla's guilt and self-doubt, questioning her ability to lead. In Chapter 6, Insignia, Isla and the rulers gather at the Insignia, a neutral meeting spot, to discuss the aftermath of the beast attack. Cleo, the Moonling ruler, arrives and questions Isla's sudden power, implying skepticism about how she stopped the creatures. Cleo dismisses Isla's explanation and turns her focus to Oro, demanding answers regarding the healing efforts for the injured. Oro presses Cleo about her true intentions with her army and whether she plans to leave Lightlark. Cleo reveals her thoughts of abandoning the island, citing the opportunity for more beyond Lightlark now that the curses are broken. She refuses to commit to a side in a potential battle with Nightshade, claiming she will choose the winning side. After Cleo leaves in a wave of water, Isla reflects on the attack and the Drek wounds, seeking answers from Oro about the creatures. Oro is clearly concerned for her well-being, but Isla reassures him. In Chapter 7, rising up, Isla is kidnapped in the middle of the night by a group of rebels, who are a mix of moonlings and other realms. They seem to hold her responsible for the Drek attack and plan to harm her. After being revived underwater, Isla is bound and wounded, but when her captors approach, she unintentionally releases a burst of energy, sending them flying. She escapes through dark tunnels and makes it to the surface, where a Sunling guard helps her. She is soon found by Oro, who is furious but reassures her. In the throne room, he addresses the nobles, promising severe consequences for the rebels. Azul introduces two Skyling warriors, Avel and Ciel, who pledge to serve Isla. Afterward, Isla and Oro share a moment, with Isla deciding she wants to start training to control her powers. Oro reveals he has a plan to help, though she may not like it. In Chapter 8, Unleashed Remlar, a Nightshade, reveals he knew all along that Isla was Nightshade, not Wildling, as Oro had believed. He offers to unravel her powers, and despite Oro's warning, Isla insists that Remlar proceed. Remlar, with his ancient abilities, places his hands on Isla's forehead and heart, causing her immense pain. As she screams, darkness and life burst from her hands. One side of her creates destruction, and the other an explosion of flowers. After the storm of emotions subsides, Isla is left in shock, and Oro rushes to her side, calling her love. However, the connection between them fades as darkness consumes her, leaving her standing in the aftermath, torn between destruction and life. In Chapter 9, Before, Isla finds herself trapped in Nightshade territory after accidentally ending up there instead of her intended destination. Fleeing from guards, she is forced to blend in with a group of women dressed similarly to Nightshades. When the Nightshade ruler, Grimshaw, enters, Isla realizes he doesn't know who she is and believes she's voluntarily chosen to be presented to him. As he gets close, Isla is overwhelmed by the unfamiliar sensations of being near him, and despite knowing who he is, she responds to his kiss. However, she quickly remembers his true identity and grabs her dagger, stabbing him in the chest. She runs to escape, managing to activate her star stick and portal away, narrowly escaping. In Chapter 10, Favorite, Isla wakes up feeling the aftermath of her powers being unleashed. Oro is by her side, comforting her as she struggles with the overwhelming sensations of her newfound abilities. She is confused and overwhelmed by the constant barrage of voices, feeling the weight of three conflicting powers inside her. Despite her fears of hurting others, Oro reassures her, bringing her to Wild Isle for safety. While recovering, Isla experiences physical and emotional pain, but Oro stays by her side, caring for her and showing affection. As they spend time together, Isla tries to push him away, questioning her worth, but Oro reassures her with words of love. He insists that it's the parts of her she dislikes that he loves the most. Isla, though still in pain, feels comforted by his presence and begins to accept his affection, falling asleep in his care. In Chapter 11, Before, Isla is in her room struggling with her uncomfortable dress and the fear of being discovered by Grim. She had hoped to escape, but Grim appears in her room, angered and ready to kill her for stabbing him. As he confronts her, Isla tries to defend herself, but Grim overpowers her, using an invisible force to choke her. After a tense moment, he releases her, and Isla, battered and frightened, grabs her dagger only to face Grim's disdain for her wildling identity. Grim mocks her, reminding her that wildlings eat hearts, and questions how she entered his realm. Despite her fear, Isla gathers the strength to threaten him with the dagger. Grim hesitates before vanishing without a word. Isla, shaken and exhausted, realizes Grim may have the same portaling abilities as her star stick, leaving her with more questions and fear about what's to come. In Chapter 12, Key-clicking into a lock, Isla begins her intense training with Oro after her powers are fully unleashed. Struggling with control, she experiences a constant mental battle as her powers lash out unpredictably. Oro encourages her to focus on a rock, teaching her that mastery of power requires discipline and time. Despite her frustration, Isla begins to grasp the importance of control, especially after hearing Oro's childhood story of struggling with his own abilities. He shares how guilt and self-forgiveness were pivotal in his journey to mastery, offering Isla hope. Over days of rigorous training, Isla slowly gains control over her abilities. One day, during a lesson with a blindfold, Isla's powers surge uncontrollably, manifesting as sharp blades and rocks in the air, though she doesn't intend to harm Oro. Oro commends her for the control, but warns her about emotional interference. Isla continues to train, gradually learning to manage her powers, feeling more in control and distancing herself from Grim's shadow. In Chapter 13, Enya, Isla decides to return to the Wildling Newland to check on her people and provide them with essential skills for survival. She enlists the help of Enya, a sunling who has experience with survival techniques and systems, and who is also a close friend of Oro. Enya brings a group of volunteers and helps Isla set up a plan to teach the wildlings how to adapt to new ways of life, including food preparation and infrastructure. As they work together, Isla introduces the volunteers to her people, who are initially wary but eventually agree to consolidate their efforts for the greater good. Isla also secretly plans to help the Starling Newland in the same way. After a long day of work, Isla returns to her room where Oro waits, and despite their proximity, their focus remains on training, as Oro leads Isla in a new exercise to control her powers. In Chapter 14, Poison, Isla continues her training, struggling to control her powers as she works on connecting with nature. Despite her efforts, her powers seem to have a darker side, as the flower she creates withers, symbolizing the poison within her Nightshade abilities. Overcome with frustration and self-doubt, Isla admits to Oro that she doesn't want the responsibility of ruling and feels undeserving of her powers. Oro reassures her, emphasizing that she is the cure, not the poison. After a deep emotional breakthrough, Isla goes for a run in the forest, feeling a strong connection to the wildling power around her. However, when she sees Grim watching her, she loses her focus and falls from the trees, only to be saved by Oval and Seal. They remind her that they are always there to protect her, and Isla is left feeling both grateful and humbled by their support. In Chapter 15, Lynx, Isla spends time with the wildlings, gaining their trust and learning their ways. Ren, a wildling leader, teaches Isla some basic wielding techniques and explains the importance of having a bonded animal companion, which is traditionally a ruler's symbol of power. Isla decides to go through with the ceremony to bond with an animal, though she is nervous. During the ceremony, she faces numerous challenges, including being in a swamp with strange creatures and having to hunt her bonded animal. After a frustrating encounter with a giant bear, Isla finally bonds with a massive black leopard. The leopard tests her, and after she shoots it with an arrow, it brings her back to the village, where Ren reveals that the leopard, named Lynx, was Isla's mother's bonded animal. This moment solidifies Isla's connection to her heritage and the wildling people. In Chapter 16, Reflection, Isla is recovering from her bonding ceremony and emotional struggles. She learns that Lynx, the leopard who bonded with her, was her mother's companion, and grieves the loss with him. After portaling back to Lightlark, Isla introduces Oro to Lynx, who shows unexpected affection for Oro. Meanwhile, Oro informs her that the rebels have been spotted, particularly around Star Isle. Spies reported sightings of masked individuals, including starlings, in underground tunnels. Ella reveals that the starlings, who were once oppressed, now view Isla as a savior. Feeling guilt over neglecting Star Isle, Isla decides to visit it with Ciel and Aval, though Oro wants to accompany her. At the end of the chapter, Isla is confronted by a vision of Grim in her room suggesting a looming danger. She attempts to defend herself but finds the room empty, realizing that Grim may be closer than she thinks. In Chapter 17, Cinder Isla arrives at the ruined Star Isle, where Marin and the young starling, Cinder, greet her. The rebels had only been recruiting, and Marin explains their desperation to venture into the dangerous crypts. Isla meets the starlings in the throne room, learning they are mostly young, with a few nobles still among them. Isla acknowledges the starlings' struggles and promises to be the ruler they need. Marin and Leo take her to their living quarters, where Isla sees the damage caused by a fire and the dangerous creatures that inhabit the eastern side of the isle. Isla vows to protect them. She then returns to Lightlark, where Oro expresses concern about her well-being. Isla avoids discussing the haunting memories of Grimm, but is grateful for Oro's presence. As they share a moment, Isla feels a growing connection, but Oro leaves her to rest, sensing her exhaustion. In Chapter 18, before, Isla portals herself into Grimm's room, intending to offer a peace offering for stabbing him earlier. She's caught hiding in his bathroom and, after a brief exchange, presents him with a vial of healing elixir for his chest wound. Grimm rejects the offer, and Isla proposes a duel to settle their conflict. Despite her skills, Grimm dominates the fight, using his superior experience and strength. Isla, however, uses her knowledge of the forest to her advantage, trapping Grimm in bog sand. In the end, Grimm overpowers her, pinning her with his sword and declaring that he never wants to see her again. He disappears, leaving Isla to fall into the bog. In Chapter 19, Golden Rose, Isla struggles with troubling memories of Grimm, realizing he had let her win their duel during the Centennial. Determined to create new memories, she attempts to make a bold move with Oro, summoning him to her room. She reveals her feelings, and, after some tension, Oro admits his intense attraction to her but refrains from acting on it, concerned about her emotional struggles. He kneels before her, offering his full support, and she confesses that she's starting to remember painful events. After a heartfelt moment, Oro promises to help her, and Isla moves into his room to find peace. Training together becomes more enjoyable, and their bond grows stronger. Eventually, Isla admits her love for Oro, leading to a passionate kiss. They share an intimate moment, deeply connected as Oro expresses his love for her in return. In Chapter 20, Wildflower, Isla feels a shift in herself after a passionate kiss with Oro, awakening emotions she had suppressed. She shares two bold ideas with him: celebrating Copia, a wildling holiday, with a small dinner at the castle to introduce wildlings' return, and creating a safe space for them on Wild Isle. Together, they use their powers to bring life back to Wild Isle, with flowers, trees, and vibrant colors blooming under their touch. Isla feels closer to Oro after this shared experience. Later, in Oro's room, Isla expresses her desire for him, leading to a passionate moment as they finally give in to their feelings. Despite the intensity, Oro remains protective, ensuring Isla's comfort. Their connection deepens, and Isla realizes she will never doubt their love again, feeling complete in his arms. The chapter highlights their growing emotional and physical bond. In Chapter 21, Illusion, Isla prepares for the Copia celebration on Lightlark, showcasing her powers with a dinner in the castle gardens. Oro, by her side, supports her as she uses her abilities to bloom flowers and create a tree from a rare seed, symbolizing growth and change. The celebration, designed to encourage unity among the realms, is a success, with Isla's speech on transformation and wildling reintegration drawing attention. However, just as the evening reaches its peak, an illusion created by Grimm strikes. The garden and the tree wither, and the event is consumed by darkness. Grimm's voice fills their minds, threatening destruction in 30 days unless they vacate the island. Isla realizes the illusion was a warning from Grimm, and the future he promises is one of ruin. This marks a pivotal moment in the story as Isla faces the looming threat of Grimm's return. In Chapter 22, History, Isla confronts Cleo, the Moonling ruler, at her castle. Isla offers an alliance, proposing that wildlings and moonlings could work together to help both realms, particularly in healing and agricultural growth. Cleo reveals that she didn't attend the 4th Centennial because of her son, who died due to the curses, and admits that she understands Isla's pain. Cleo tells Isla that the Oracle is awake and has a message for her. Despite their difficult past, Cleo agrees to help but remains loyal only to herself. Isla, Oro, and their allies prepare to meet the Oracle on Moon Isle. However, when they fly to the horizon, they spot a fleet of ships led by Cleo, who is leaving Lightlark and joining Grimm's forces. Azul confirms that the Moonlings are fleeing, and Soren reveals they are aligning with Nightshade, sealing a dangerous new alliance for the coming conflict. In Chapter 23, Prophecy, Isla and Oro visit the Oracle, who reveals that Isla's memories hold the key to stopping Grimm's impending destruction of Lightlark. The Oracle's power is fading, and Isla learns that the only way to save the island is to remember everything, painful memories included. Despite her reluctance, Isla resolves to reclaim her memories for the greater good. The Oracle also emphasizes the importance of the vault, which Isla must open to change the outcome. Later, Isla seeks help from Remlar, who explains that strengthening her Nightshade powers will help her recall her memories. Although reluctant to embrace the death-related powers, Isla agrees to learn. She successfully summons Nightshade power, leaving a deadly imprint on the ground. However, when she attempts to leave, she finds herself no longer in the Sky Isle woods, hinting at an unexpected twist in her journey. In Chapter 24, before, Isla ventures to the Nightshade market in search of gloves made from human flesh, essential for her and Celeste's survival plan. Despite her promise never to return to Nightshade, she portals back, determined to find the gloves. After navigating the eerie market, she encounters a dangerous man who tries to scalp her but is killed by Isla in self-defense. Guards pursue her, and she barely escapes, only to be confronted by Grim. Captured and imprisoned, Isla faces Grim's disdain, but he offers her an unlikely deal. He needs her help retrieving a powerful sword, and in return, he promises not to kill her at the Centennial and to be her ally. Initially refusing, Isla reluctantly agrees after Grim returns her starstick, essential for her escape. She realizes this uneasy alliance may be her only hope for surviving the Centennial. In Chapter 25, Revelations, Isla discusses her encounter with Grim and his quest for a powerful sword, which she believes may be linked to the Oracle's prophecy about his weapon. She later meets with the Wildlings, who express readiness to fight despite the risk. Isla also emphasizes the need for healing elixirs, as Moonling healers have joined Nightshade. As they prepare for war, she contemplates the importance of the vault and the memories that could help defeat Grim. In the woods, she confides in Lynx about her struggles and the war, then attempts to open the vault but fails. Meanwhile, Isla learns that Skyling may abandon Lightlark, leaving them vulnerable. She considers turning to the Vinderland for help, though Oro opposes the idea. Training with Remlar, Isla uses her Nightshade powers to kill a tree, turning its death into new life, proving her unique ability to transform destruction into creation. In Chapter 26, before Isla reluctantly agrees to work with Grim despite his disdain for her. Grim takes her to a blacksmith's forge, where she is tasked with finding a powerful sword. The blacksmith reveals the sword was cursed so no Nightshade ruler can claim it, and Isla's blood is required to locate it. While climbing to the forge, Isla injures herself, but manages to escape an ambush by the blacksmith, only to be saved by Grim. Back in her room, Isla questions Grim's motives, learning that he can't use his powers during the search for the sword and has been betrayed before. Grim's trust in her is conditional, and he warns her to keep their mission secret from her court. Isla begins to question if she's making a mistake, but is driven by the promise of freedom. She asks Grim about the best thieves on Nightshade. In Chapter 27, Premonition, Isla visits Star Isle to find the best wielder for the shield's energy. Marin reveals that Cinder, a young girl with extraordinary power, is the most skilled but has been kept hidden to protect her. Isla convinces Marin to let Cinder help, promising that her involvement will remain anonymous. Meanwhile, Skyling's vote on whether to fight has been delayed, and Wildlings, Starlings, and others are training and preparing for war. Later, Isla experiences a terrifying vision of darkness and destruction, where Grim is the source of the chaos. She feels herself dying in the vision, realizing that Grim kills her in the future. Oro, furious, vows to kill Grim first. Isla's vision becomes clearer, confirming the looming danger. In Chapter 28, before, Isla continues to recover from her injury, while Grim waits for her to heal, needing her for his search. They travel to a thieves' base to find the sword, with Isla's fears of Grim's curse being alleviated by a charm he wears. Once there, Isla is ambushed by thieves and kills 2 of them in self-defense, including one with a throwing blade. However, she is nearly captured before Grim intervenes, interrogating a captured thief about the sword's location. The thief reveals the sword was stolen by a rogue named Victor, who has a snake and has been spotted near Cretan's Crag. Grim kills the thief, despite Isla's promise to let him live. Isla is shaken by her first kill and her growing discomfort with Grim's cold methods. Grim then leaves, stating he will return in 2 weeks, and Isla is left with her unsettling actions and emotions. In Chapter 29, I Do Not Die Today, Isla reflects on the Oracle's words, holding on to hope as she prepares for the impending battle. Oro promises he will protect her, but Isla is determined to take action, deciding to visit the Vinderland for help. Enya accompanies her, and they endure harsh weather as they arrive in Vinderland territory. Enya reveals she knows her own death date, choosing to live fully in the present. They are soon met by Vinderland warriors who initially refuse to help, but Isla warns them of the looming threat from Nightshade. After a tense moment, the Vinderland leader rejects her offer. As he attempts to strike Isla with an axe, her shield falters, but she miraculously survives when the axe turns to ash upon contact, signifying her growing power and her ability to defy death. In Chapter 30, Isla reflects on her strained relationships and the looming battle. She visits the Wildling village secretly, hoping to understand her people better, but is captured by two wildlings. They plan to sacrifice her for food due to a shortage of hearts. After struggling to free herself, Isla uses her star stick to portal to Grimm's room, where he helps stop her bleeding. He offers her chocolate to keep her conscious and reveals his brutal childhood training. She questions him about her mother's star stick, but Grimm denies knowing her. As Isla heals, they engage in a tense exchange about their past interactions, with Grimm accusing her of tricking him. Isla questions his relationships with women, and Grimm hints at his ability to sense emotions. Despite the tension, he tells her to rest, and she is left alone with her thoughts, unsure of what comes next. In Chapter 31, Isla confronts the Vinderland warriors, who are initially hostile, but eventually agree to fight alongside her after witnessing her power as both Wildling and Nightshade. The warriors are suffering from a mysterious sickness, and Isla proposes using the Wildling healing elixir to cure them, which could turn the tide of battle. Calder, a healer, agrees to help and travels with Isla to gather the flowers used in the elixir. Along the way, Isla reunites with Lynx, a massive leopard, who becomes a potential asset for the upcoming battle. Upon returning to Lightlark, Isla prepares for the Skyling vote, and focuses on strengthening defenses with Cinder's help. Despite these efforts, Isla remains anxious, knowing it might not be enough to win the war. In Chapter 32, Grimm forces Isla to undergo intense training, particularly in using her star stick for portaling and in swordplay. He teaches her that her portaling device is unreliable without proper visualization, and she struggles to control short-distance portals. Grimm tests her abilities through multiple attempts, eventually guiding her to the training room. They spar, and Grimm critiques her technique, demonstrating his superior skills. He pushes her to her limits, emphasizing that her guardians have not prepared her for the realities of war. After a long night of training, Isla becomes frustrated, but acknowledges her progress. Grimm warns her to survive the upcoming celebration on Cretan's Crag in 3 days, as her survival is crucial to his plans. Though she recognizes he's training her out of necessity, she continues to improve, determined not to die in the battle ahead. In Chapter 33, Isla seeks to find the creatures that have been terrorizing Star Isle after a child is found dead. She confronts a large serpent only to have it transform into a woman, revealing she was once Wildling. The woman explains the creatures have killed for survival, but Isla demands they stop killing the Starlings. The woman refuses to fight for Isla, claiming she no longer considers herself Wildling, but Isla orders her to join the fight against Nightshade. The woman laughs and nearly strikes Isla, but spares her, flying off with Isla's warning. Later, Isla reflects on the encounter, realizing the gravity of her situation. As she falls into bed, she recalls a previous encounter with a snake, feeling uneasy about the complex relationships and alliances she must navigate in the battle ahead. In Chapter 34, Isla and Grimm attend a chaotic celebration at Cretan's Crag in search of a thief with a snake, who may have information about the stolen sword. Isla is forced to wear a revealing dress and mask, attracting unwanted attention, while Grimm remains tense, unable to use his powers. After gathering information from a man with a serpent, Isla learns that the sword is hidden in the caves of Arida, but it's guarded by a monster. As she relays this to Grimm, he reacts with anger, and their confrontation escalates into a tense, charged moment. Grimm, seemingly more interested in tormenting her than in the sword, pushes Isla to her limits, leading to a provocative encounter. Afterward, he uses her star stick to quickly teleport her away, leaving Isla shaken by his actions and the complex dynamics between them. In Chapter 35, Isla struggles with the guilt of her memories, feeling torn between her past self and the person she is now. She practices defensive wildling techniques, but the weight of her emotions and the necklace Grimm gave her make her feel trapped. She's determined to break free from the necklace, but no matter what she tries, it remains. As the Skylings vote on whether to stay and fight, Isla makes an impassioned plea, offering a democracy for the Starlings if they survive. Her proposal sways some Skylings, and 100 decide to stay and fight. However, Azul, their leader, steps down, apologizing for his decision. Isla is conflicted, as she respects his leadership, but understands that their people's choice might cost them everything. Later, Isla vents her anger alone in the Wildling Newland, overwhelmed by the weight of her responsibilities. In Chapter 36, Isla, feeling abandoned by Grimm, searches for him and eventually finds him, but is confronted by a woman in his room. Grimm has been preoccupied and hasn't visited her for a month, causing Isla frustration. She ventures to the night market to find a map to the caves of Irida, where she believes the sword is hidden. There, she is ambushed by Nightshades, who nearly kill her before Grimm intervenes, brutally killing the attackers. He tends to her wounds, and Isla learns that Grimm's general believes Isla is just another of his conquests. Despite her anger and confusion, Isla reveals the sword's location. Grimm agrees to help her retrieve it once she is healed. She mentions the monster guarding the sword, and Grimm is unfazed, ready to face whatever awaits in the caves of Irida. In Chapter 37, Zed announces that they have found the ore needed for the weapon to fight Nightshade. He asks for Isla's help, as she is the only one who can move the ore, which is too difficult to manipulate with air. After successfully extracting it, Isla seeks out Soren, who reluctantly agrees to help heal the Vinderland warriors for their battle. Meanwhile, Isla continues her preparations, including convincing Lynx to join the fight by offering him food and armor. She practices riding him, but struggles, often falling off, though Lynx shows signs of growing affection for her. As the days before battle dwindle, Isla and her team strategize, eventually deciding to fight on the west side of the mainland between the Agora and Castle. Isla also works on portaling civilians and coating Lightlark with poisonous plants, but with limited time and resources, she realizes she needs a faster solution. In Chapter 38, Isla and Grimm venture to retrieve the sword guarded by a dragon in a cave. When Isla steps inside, they are attacked by a barrage of arrows, and Grimm shields her, taking 12 arrows in the process. Grimm's injuries are severe, but he refuses to leave. Isla uses her star stick to fetch healing supplies and tends to his wounds, while Grimm shares a surprising truth about his use of pain to access deeper power. As she helps him, Isla is struck by the depth of his suffering. After treating him, Grimm reveals the arrows were not shot by a person, but by a mechanism designed to kill intruders, likely stolen from his own castle. Though they're close to the sword, Isla realizes there are many protections in place. Grimm prepares for a difficult night and the challenge ahead, hinting at his strategy of enduring more pain and using his strength to shield them. In Chapter 39, Isla taps into her Nightshade abilities, unleashing immense power and creating barriers of brambles and thorn-covered plants to block enemy forces. However, the process is painful, and Isla's body begins to bleed as she channels the energy. Oro arrives and is horrified by what she's done, warning her that using pain to fuel power is a dangerous shortcut that could ultimately kill her. He presses her to promise she won't use this method again. Despite his concerns, Isla feels stronger than ever. She continues her efforts, portaling civilians to safety, but also struggles with memories of Celeste and her role in the ongoing suffering. While practicing her powers, she encounters Remlar, who reveals that her unique blend of Nightshade and Wildling powers makes her a beacon of hope. He urges her to embrace her darkness and offer herself as a leader to creatures on Lightlark who could join her cause. In Chapter 40, Grimm and Isla return from their latest trip to the cave, both injured from the numerous enchantments they encountered. Grimm offers Isla the opportunity to share a medicinal bath which could help with healing. Despite her reservations, Isla accepts, exhausted from their efforts. They both step into the large bath, with Grimm facing away, respecting her space. Isla, though in pain, slowly undresses and enters the water, feeling the soothing effects of its enchantments. As they sit across from each other in silence, both are physically and emotionally drained. The water gradually clears as they recover, but neither of them speaks. Grimm eventually leaves, and Isla is left to reflect on their shared struggle. The chapter highlights their growing connection as they both silently acknowledge their shared mission to save their people, though their relationship remains complicated. In Chapter 41, Isla decides to have armor made for Lynx, who has become more accustomed to her as she practices riding him. She finds out from Ren that Lynx already has armor from a previous battle with her mother, and they work together to fit him with it. Once Lynx is fully armored, Isla feels more confident riding him into battle. During a ride, Lynx brings her to a clearing where she experiences a vision of her mother. The vision reveals Isla's mother's beauty and the love between her parents, including a moment when they held Isla as a baby. Overcome with emotion, Isla realizes Lynx has seen her as a child and might have had a connection to her parents. She thanks Lynx for showing her this, and the two share a moment of grief and understanding. As night falls, Isla returns to her room only to find Lynx replaced by someone else. In Chapter 42, Grimm informs Isla that he has a ball to attend, a distraction he finds distasteful. Despite his refusal to let her join, Isla sneaks into the ball herself, determined to experience it. The Nightshade castle is full of debauchery, and Isla, dressed in a revealing black gown, attracts attention, including from Grimm, who watches her with fury. Isla dances with a man who later attempts to take advantage of her. She soon discovers he poisoned her drink, a tactic designed to paralyze her for his pleasure. Grimm intervenes, sparing the man's life but threatening him with endless suffering. Grimm explains how he recognized the poison and offers Isla an antidote, which she takes. Their conversation turns heated as Grimm taunts her about her desires. Isla rejects him, but his words leave an undeniable impact. Both Grimm and the poisoned man vanish, leaving Isla shaken. In Chapter 43, Isla continues her preparations for battle, working with Enya and others to arrange for the warriors' arrival at Lightlark. During a quiet moment, Enya shares her concerns about Isla's relationship with Oro, warning that Oro's love for her may be weakening him, which could be disastrous for Lightlark. Isla, though shaken by Enya's words, focuses on her tasks. Later, Isla is ambushed by rebels led by Marin, a starling who reveals the ancient curse system called Nexus, which binds people to their rulers. Marin explains that Isla, being immune to curses, may be the key to breaking this system and freeing the realms from their rulers' deaths. However, breaking the Nexus requires the death of the king, which Isla refuses to consider. She leaves the cave conflicted and prepares for the upcoming battle, unsure if she should tell Oro about the rebels or the Nexus. In Chapter 44, Grimm is severely injured and collapses in Isla's room, revealing that he was nearly killed by an attack. Despite the dire situation, he seems to find humor in his predicament. Isla heals him with the last of her elixir, applying it to his wounds, which were caused by an attack linked to the Drex, winged beasts from Nightshade. Grimm explains that his ancestor cursed his warriors to become Drex, and the sword he seeks controls them, which is why he needs it to stop them from rising again. The conversation turns personal when Isla asks about his mother, learning that Nightshade rulers do not marry to avoid love, making them vulnerable. Grimm reveals he has tried for an heir but has not succeeded. Isla realizes that he is lonely and feels trapped by his duty. She also begins to understand the complexities of their relationship and his motivations. In Chapter 45, Isla reveals the truth about the sword that controls Drex to her allies, including Zed, Enya, Azul, and Calder. They are all horrified by the implications, especially after learning that Grimm may have the sword, allowing him to create an army of Drex. The group feels hopeless, but Enya refuses to give up, motivating them to find another way to win. Desperate, Isla makes a risky decision and portals to the Star Isle Forest, seeking help from the ancient creatures, including the Serpent Woman. Although the serpent initially rejects her, Isla convinces other creatures on the island to join her cause, promising them a place on Wild Isle. Isla's growing connection to her Nightshade abilities makes her realize that her darkness may be her greatest strength. By the end of the chapter, she feels the loyalty of the creatures and gains control over the shadows, ready for what's to come. In Chapter 46, Grimm and Isla make their way through the cave's obstacles, finally facing the dragon guarding the sword. Grimm takes Isla to a field of flowers that smell like the Wildling healing elixir, revealing they are the same flower called Nightbane, which in Nightshade hands becomes a dangerous drug. Isla suggests a deal. Nightshade supplies them with the flowers to create healing elixirs, and in exchange they provide hearts from people Grimm intends to kill. Grimm agrees, and they shake hands on the deal. Back in her room, their growing connection becomes palpable as they share a charged moment. Grimm is on the verge of kissing her, but is interrupted by news of a breach in the scar. He vanishes, leaving Isla stunned. The chapter builds on their complex relationship and the stakes of the coming battle. In Chapter 47, Isla wakes up with the realization that the Wildling healing flower is actually Nightbane, a dangerous substance when processed by Nightshade. As she processes this, a vision hits her, showing Lynx and Grim in the Wildling village. She follows the vision and travels with Oro to the village, only to find it deserted. Every village she visits is empty, and all the healing elixirs they had been making are gone. Returning to the Wildling Palace, Isla finds a note confirming that her people have been taken to Nightshade. Her anger and devastation overwhelm her, and she rages in her room. In a moment of grief, she breaks down in front of Oro, realizing that Grim has taken her people. The chapter highlights Isla's sense of loss and betrayal, setting the stage for an emotional confrontation. In Chapter 48, Grim reappears after his disappearance, wearing heavy, intimidating armor, looking like a demon. Isla, relieved but confused, discovers he is unharmed. He explains the breach and the scar and his battle with the Drex. The intensity between them builds as they share a charged moment, where Isla becomes aware of the growing attraction and her own desire. Despite their emotional and physical tension, Isla's hesitation falters as she steps toward him and asks him to touch her. They share a passionate, overwhelming kiss, and their connection escalates. As the night unfolds, their intimate encounter deepens, marked by Grim's overwhelming presence and Isla's realization of the power they both wield. Grim reminds her of their past conflict, drawing attention to the complex and intense dynamic between them. The chapter ends with Isla reflecting on the powerful memory and connection they've shared. In Chapter 49, Isla's grief and anger push her to take action against Grim, who has taken her people to Nightshade. She summons him using her necklace, confronting him about his betrayal. Grim reveals that her people chose to come with him, and he had even erased their memories to ease their guilt. Isla is devastated, especially when she learns that Grim has the sword, but denies ordering the Drex to attack. She decides that she must stop him, and she plans to use the bond between them to strip him of his power temporarily. Isla seeks Remlar's help to access and control Grim's powers, despite the dangers and risks involved. As Remlar prepares her, they discuss power, labels, and the ancient creatures. Isla struggles with the burden of what she must do, realizing the importance of her decision and its consequences. The chapter ends with Isla starting the process of unlocking her memories. In Chapter 50, Isla and Grim prepare for the dragon in the cave, with Grim setting up illusions for her to practice. After successfully completing her training, Isla suggests celebrating the launch of Orbs Festival, an event she had wanted to attend. Grim reluctantly agrees to join her, and they attend the festival, where Isla enjoys the night while wearing a glittering dress. They share a quiet, intimate moment in a hot air balloon, where Grim reveals a surprising softness in his demeanor. Isla and Grim's interactions continue to grow more charged, with both of them expressing their desires and frustrations. After a moment of passion in the balloon, Grim unexpectedly portals them back to her room. Despite the heated tension, he decides not to continue and instead pulls her into bed beside him, telling her to dream of him. The chapter highlights the deepening and complicated connection between them. In Chapter 51, Isla and Grim prepare to retrieve the sword in the cave. Grim lures out the dragon, while Isla navigates through the cave's deadly traps. She narrowly avoids arrows, boulders, and ice shards before reaching the sword, but the dragon's fiery attack nearly kills her. Grim uses his powers to save her, but in doing so, the sword disappears. Isla is frustrated, but realizes Grim's decision was rooted in care for her, not his realm. Grim confesses that he no longer wants to use the sword due to its high cost, and that he plans to protect his realm with his own power. Their bond deepens, and they promise to act as strangers during the centennial. Later, Isla surprises Grim with a baby dragon she found, insisting he keep it. Despite his reluctance, Grim accepts the dragon, and their playful dynamic grows stronger as they share moments of intimacy and humor. In Chapter 52, Isla struggles with guilt after summoning Grim and betraying Oro. She meets Oro in the woods, and they discuss the plan to kill Grim. Despite her guilt, Oro reassures her of his love and patience. Isla still feels undeserving of his affection, but is touched by his words. She then goes to the Wild Isle and opens the vault only to find it empty. Terra appears and accuses Isla of making a mess, revealing her betrayal. Terra offers to join her, but Isla refuses, attacking her with her powers. A fierce battle ensues, with Isla using every technique Terra taught her, but she is eventually overpowered. Terra shatters Isla's blade and defeats her, leaving Isla powerless on the floor. Terra's final words trigger a forgotten memory, hinting at a deeper connection and revealing a portal she unknowingly opened for Nightshade's plans. In Chapter 53, Isla follows a mysterious calling to the forest where she finds the sword. Grimm arrives, shocked by its appearance. He admits his search for the sword began over 20 years ago with help from a general who was impervious to curses. Isla soon learns that the general was her father, revealing that she has the same flair as Grimm, which allows her to access the sword's power. Grimm explains that the portal to another world is hidden in the Wildling Palace, and that the sword's curse could only be broken by Isla's flair, potentially costing her life. Isla is devastated to realize Grimm knew the risks from the beginning. Enraged and heartbroken, she rejects Grimm's explanation, declaring she never wants to see him again. Grimm, deeply affected, vanishes, leaving Isla in tears. In Chapter 54, Isla is cared for by Oro after injuring her hand, reflecting on her failure and Enya's earlier warning that Oro deserves better. The group gathers to prepare for the upcoming battle, and Isla reveals critical information. Grimm is attempting to use a portal to another world, which could destroy Lightlark. She shares how the portal's destruction was once intended to help Grimm's realm, but now she has unknowingly opened it for him. The group is stunned, especially when Isla admits she unwittingly gave Grimm the key to destroying everything. Zed urges them to stop the portal from opening, but Isla's guilt overwhelms her, knowing her actions might have doomed their world. In Chapter 55, Isla learns from the Oracle that her fate is undecided and hinges on a painful choice between Oro and Grimm. One must die by her hand. As the battle nears, Isla is tormented by the possibility of killing either of them. She struggles with her memories and the truth about Grimm's role in the portal's creation. Meanwhile, the war begins, with Lightlark's army, including Skyling and Sunling warriors, fighting back against Grimm's forces. Amidst the chaos, Isla faces a critical moment where Oro seems to be preparing for his own death, but she promises to protect him. However, during the battle, the Drex arrive, overwhelming the forces. As Isla fights alongside Lynx, she finds herself in a dire situation, needing Grimm to stop the destruction. Eventually, she faces an overwhelming Nightshade army, and Grimm appears, calling to her. In Chapter 56, Grimm visits Isla in her room, seeking to explain something important. Despite her unresolved feelings of betrayal, he tells her that the scar has opened in an unexpected location, threatening hundreds of lives. As he holds her, Grimm expresses his deep emotions for her, revealing that she has changed his entire world. He confesses his love, saying that no matter what happens to him, he will always find her even in the next life. His words sound like a goodbye, but Isla insists on helping him, wanting to face whatever challenges lie ahead together. She offers to go with him to use the sword, but Grimm deceives her. He kisses her quickly before taking her star stick and vanishing, leaving her unable to follow him. Grimm has taken a drastic step, and Isla is left in shock, unable to reach him. In Chapter 57, Grimm confronts Isla and Oro on the bridge, aware he's walking into a trap. A fierce battle ensues, showcasing Grimm and Oro's immense powers clashing through shadow, fire, water, and starling energy. Isla watches helplessly, knowing the Oracle's prophecy. She must choose between Grimm and Oro, a decision that will determine their world's fate. Oro nearly defeats Grimm, but Grimm cunningly redirects Oro's own lightning attack back at him, gravely injuring him. As Grimm prepares to finish Oro, Isla realizes she must sever her connection with Grimm. Overwhelmed by memories and grief, Isla reluctantly reaches through their bond and, following Remlar's instructions, takes Grimm's power, despite the devastating emotional cost. In Chapter 58, Isla desperately portals herself to Nightshade to save Grimm, who's overwhelmed and losing a brutal battle against the Drex. Arriving amidst chaos and slaughter, Isla witnesses Grimm mortally wounded by the Drex. Realizing she must act, she plunges her sword into the ground, releasing a destructive wave of shadows, annihilating the enemy forces. As her power exhausts, Isla willingly sacrifices her wildling abilities, channeling them through their bond to Grimm, ensuring his survival and entrusting him with her people's protection. Drained, Isla collapses into Grimm's arms, dying. Grimm pleads desperately for her life, but Isla's heart finally stops, leaving Grimm shattered by grief. In Chapter 59, Isla takes Grimm's powers, leaving him defenseless against Oro's attack. Grimm struggles, realizing he can no longer summon shadows, and Isla is overwhelmed by guilt but maintains control. Oro prepares a deadly strike, and for the first time, Grimm shows fear, not for himself, but for Isla. Just as Oro is about to kill him, Grimm reveals, "If I die, she dies," halting Oro instantly. Oro, shocked and furious, realizes the truth of Grimm's words. Isla and Grimm's lives are now bound together. Killing Grimm would also mean Isla's death. In Chapter 60, Isla wakes up, confused to find herself alive after death. Grimm, emotional and relieved, kneels beside her and reveals she had died in his arms. Isla struggles to understand how she's alive, aware that she'd completely drained her life force, giving Grimm her power. Grimm confirms that Isla's sacrifice had indeed worked, but neither of them knows how she returned from death. Both recognize something unnatural has occurred, raising critical questions about the implications of Isla's resurrection. In Chapter 61, Isla awakens to discover Grimm bound their lives together, meaning neither can die without the other also dying. Grimm's real motive for opening the portal to the other world becomes clear. He intends to save Isla's life, knowing that souls can return there. Isla realizes the catastrophic vision she had, death and devastation, was not Grimm's doing, but her own uncontrolled powers destroying an innocent village. Horrified, Isla understands she's repeatedly endangered others by losing emotional control of her powers. Believing she's a monster who will inevitably hurt those she loves, Isla begs Oro to kill Grimm, thus killing her, but Oro refuses. The chapter ends with Grimm declaring Isla as his wife, unveiling the final, critical piece of their bond. In Chapter 62, Isla recovers critical memories. After unintentionally destroying a village, she'd begged Grimm to erase her memory, but he'd refused. On the centennial night, Grimm offered her a necklace symbolizing their eternal bond. Although Isla willingly accepted, Grimm couldn't bring himself to bind her permanently, hiding the necklace instead. Isla finally recalls Grimm asking forgiveness for withholding the truth. She understands now. Grimm had deliberately concealed their connection to protect her. This revelation confirms their deep history, Grimm's sacrifice, and explains their shared life force bond, which dictates their fates are intertwined. Isla now knows Grimm had shielded her from knowledge of their bond to protect her, but now the truth is clear, altering their futures forever. In Chapter 63, Isla witnesses the brutal massacre of Skylings by Drex, highlighting the futility of ongoing violence. Overwhelmed by guilt from past destruction and convinced she shares Grimm's monstrous nature, Isla chooses to leave with Grimm. Understanding the depth of her connection to Grimm, Isla accepts she's a monster like him and must leave Lightlark and Oro behind. Grimm promises to bring Lynx with them, teleporting the leopard away. Oro, devastated and conflicted, begs her not to leave, but Isla admits she loves Grimm too, taking his hand and choosing him openly. Her confession to Oro confirms her divided heart and seals her decision to join Grimm, significantly shifting the narrative and alliances moving forward.